The screenshot appeared on my phone at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, sent from a number I didn't recognize. No message, no explanation. Just a photo of my wife Jessica's car parked outside the Riverside Inn, a boutique hotel 40 minutes from our home in suburban Atlanta. I stared at it while standing in the break room at work, my coffee growing cold in my hand. The timestamp on the image read 1:15 p.m. Jessica had told me she was meeting her college roommate for lunch at Panera. The Riverside Inn was nowhere near any Panera I knew of. My hands started shaking before my brain fully processed what I was looking at. A second screenshot arrived. This one showed the hotel's online reservation system, a booking under J. Patterson for room 312, checked in at 12:45 p.m., checkout scheduled for 5 p.m. Patterson was Jessica's maiden name. The third screenshot made my stomach drop. It was a text message conversation, the contact name obscured but the words crystal clear. Same time Tuesday? Can't wait to see you. Already booked our usual room. Wear that blue dress I like. You know I will. Tyler's at work until 6. We have plenty of time. Tyler. That's me. Tyler Brennan, married for 8 years, father to 2 daughters, ages 6 and 4. The man who apparently had plenty of time to be made a fool of. I left work without telling anyone, got in my car, and drove. Not toward the Riverside Inn. Some instinct told me that confronting them there would only give Jessica ammunition to paint me as unstable, controlling. Instead, I drove to a strip mall parking lot and sat there, engine running, trying to breathe normally. The rational part of my brain kicked in. I needed proof. Real proof. Screenshots from an unknown number wouldn't hold up if this went where I thought it was going. I needed to verify this was actually happening, not just react to what could theoretically be someone trying to mess with my marriage. I opened the Find My Phone app. Jessica and I had shared our locations years ago, back when she was worried about me driving late at night for work. I'd forgotten it was even active. The little blue dot with her name sat squarely on top of the Riverside Inn. My wife was exactly where the screenshot said she was. At 3:15 on a Tuesday afternoon, in a hotel room booked under her maiden name. I sat there for 20 minutes, watching that blue dot stay perfectly still. Not moving to a restaurant, not shopping, just stationary in that hotel. Then I made a decision that probably saved me in everything that came after. I called my brother-in-law, David. David answered on the second ring. Tyler, what's up? I need you to do something for me, and I need you to not ask questions until after you've done it. There was a pause. David and I had been friends since high school, even before he introduced me to his sister. He knew my voice well enough to hear something was seriously wrong. Okay, what do you need? I need you to go to the Riverside Inn on Highway 20. I need you to sit in the parking lot and watch for Jessica's car. When she comes out, I need you to take photos of her and whoever she's with. Clear photos. Time-stamped. Another pause, longer this time. Tyler, please, David, I'll explain everything tonight. But I need this. I need someone else to see what I think is happening. I'm leaving now, he said, and hung up. I drove home in a daze. Our house in Marietta looked exactly as it had that morning. The toys scattered on the lawn, Jessica's garden gnomes lining the walkway, the Brennan family sign hanging on the front door. Everything normal. Everything a lie. Inside, I went straight to our home office and opened Jessica's laptop. She'd never been particularly careful about passwords. We'd always had an open-door policy about technology. Nothing to hide, she'd said once, laughing, when I'd accidentally opened her email instead of mine. Nothing to hide. Her email was still logged in. I felt a twinge of guilt that lasted approximately 3 seconds before I started searching. I didn't even have to dig deep. There was a folder labeled Travel that contained hotel confirmations going back 6 months. The Riverside Inn appeared 8 times, always on Tuesdays. Always from 12:45 to 5 odd p.m. Always booked under J. Patterson. My phone buzzed. David had sent 3 photos. The first showed Jessica walking out of the hotel's side entrance at 4:35 p.m. She was wearing a blue dress I'd complimented her on just last week. Her hair was slightly messed up, and she was smiling in a way I hadn't seen in months. The second photo showed a man walking beside her. Tall, athletic build, probably mid-30s. He had his hand on the small of her back. The third photo captured them at her car. He was leaning down, kissing her. Not a peck. Not a friendly goodbye. A kiss that spoke of intimacy and familiarity. My phone rang. David. "I'm sorry, man," he said quietly. "I'm so sorry." "Who is he?" "I don't know. Want me to follow him?" I thought about it. "No. Just send me those photos from your phone too. I need them from a different device." "Already done. Tyler, what are you going to do?" "I don't know yet," I said, which was true. My mind was spinning through possibilities, none of them good. "Don't tell anyone, not yet. I need to think. Not even, especially not your parents. Please." He agreed, reluctantly, and we hung up. I had about an hour before Jessica got home. An hour before she walked through that door and kissed me hello and asked about my day and pretended she'd spent her afternoon catching up with an old friend over salad and iced tea. An hour to decide what kind of man I was going to be. The photographs David sent me were still glowing on my phone screen when I heard the garage door rumble open. 5:17 p.m. She was home. I had 43 minutes to prepare. I'd used them to print everything. The hotel reservations, the emails, the photographs David had taken. They sat in a manila folder on my desk in the home office, arranged chronologically. 6 months of Tuesdays, documented in black and white. I closed the folder and walked downstairs. Jessica came through the door from the garage carrying 2 shopping bags from Target. Her hair was different than this morning. Styled, curled at the ends. Fresh makeup. She'd changed clothes too. The blue blouse from the hotel photographs was gone, replaced by the casual sweater and jeans she'd left the house wearing. She'd brought a costume change to the affair. "Hey," she said, setting the bags on the kitchen counter. Traffic was terrible coming back from Panera. I watched her unpack the bags. Dish soap, paper towels, a set of bath toys for the girls. "How was lunch?" I asked. "Good, really good actually." She didn't look at me, arranging items on the counter. "Meredith's doing well. Her daughter just started kindergarten." Meredith. The college roommate who didn't exist on this particular Tuesday. Maybe didn't exist at all. "That's great," I said. She finally looked up, smiled. "I got the girls those bath toys they've been wanting. Thought we could try them out tonight?" "Sure." Something in my voice must have registered because her smile faltered slightly. "You okay?" "Fine. Long day at work." She nodded, accepting this, and went back to organizing her purchases. I watched her move through our kitchen, putting things away in cabinets she'd organized, in the home we'd bought together 7 years ago. Every movement familiar, every gesture known, everything a performance. "I'm going to grab the girls from your mom's," she said, checking her phone. "Should be back by 6:30. Want me to pick up something for dinner?" "Whatever you want." She grabbed her purse and keys, paused at the door. "You sure you're okay?" "Positive." After she left, I stood in the kitchen for a long moment. The Target bags sat on the counter. I looked inside one. The receipt was there. Time-stamped 4:47 p.m. She'd actually gone to Target after the hotel. Built her alibi with dish soap and bath toys. My phone buzzed. "David. You tell her yet?" "No. She just left to get the kids." "What's the plan?" I stared at his message. What was the plan? Confront her tonight? Wait? Gather more evidence? Contact a lawyer first? Not sure yet. Need to think. Take your time. I'm here when you need me. I went back upstairs to the office and opened the folder again. The photographs David had taken were printed on regular copy paper, but they were clear enough. Jessica and the man leaving the hotel lobby, his hand on her back, the kiss at her car. Her smile, genuine, unguarded, happy. I'd seen that smile 1,000 times, thought it belonged to me. The hotel reservations showed a pattern. Always room 247, always 12:45 p.m. check-in, 5 p.m. checkout, always Tuesday. She'd found a rhythm to her betrayal, made it routine, scheduled it like a dentist appointment. I checked my own calendar. Next Tuesday was blank. Would she do it again? Book another room, send another text to him, change clothes in a hotel bathroom? My phone rang. Jessica. Hey, we're heading home now. The girls want pizza. That okay? In the background, I could hear my daughters chattering, arguing about something inconsequential. Normal. Everything normal. Pizza's fine, I said. Okay, love you. She hung up before I could respond. Or maybe I just didn't say anything. I wasn't sure anymore. I closed the folder and locked it in my desk drawer. Then I went downstairs and set the table for dinner like nothing had changed. They came home 20 minutes later with a large pepperoni pizza and breadsticks. The girls ran to me immediately, both talking at once about their day at Grandma's. Daddy, we made cookies. And watched Frozen. For the 100th time, Jessica added, laughing. She set the pizza box on the table. Mom sent some cookies home with us. They're in the car. I'll get them, I said. Outside, the evening was cooling down. Jessica's car sat in the driveway, the same silver Honda Accord I'd watched on Find My Phone sitting at the Riverside Inn for 4 hours. I opened the passenger door and found a plastic container of chocolate chip cookies on the seat. Underneath it was her blue blouse, hastily folded. She'd forgotten to hide it. I stood there holding the container, staring at the blouse. A small thing. A stupid mistake. But it made everything real in a way the photographs hadn't. This was her affair car. She'd driven our daughters around in it, taken them to school, to birthday parties, to the grocery store, and every Tuesday for 6 months, she'd driven it to the Riverside Inn. I grabbed the cookies and went back inside. Dinner was exactly like every other Tuesday dinner. The girls told stories. Jessica asked about my day. I gave vague answers. We ate pizza and breadsticks and cookies, and I watched my wife lie with every smile, every casual comment, every normal gesture. Mommy, can we use the new bath toys tonight? Our youngest asked. Absolutely, right after dinner. Yay! Jessica met my eyes across the table, sharing that parental moment of satisfaction at making the kids happy. Like we were a team. Partners. I looked away first. After dinner, Jessica took the girls upstairs for bath time. I cleaned up the kitchen, putting away the pizza box, wiping down the table. Through the ceiling, I could hear water running, the girls squealing with delight over their new toys. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. Did you get my message? I stared at the text. The anonymous sender. The person who'd started all of this. Who is this? 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then appeared again. Someone who thought you should know. Check her phone tonight. Password is your oldest daughter's birthday. How do you know that? Just check it. You'll want to see the photos. The dots disappeared and didn't come back. I tried calling the number. It rang once, then went to a generic voicemail. I tried texting again. Why are you doing this? No response. Upstairs, the bath was ending. I could hear Jessica getting the girls into pajamas, reading them a bedtime story. Our normal Tuesday routine, playing out like always. I went to the office and retrieved the folder from my desk drawer. Sat on the couch in the living room and waited. Jessica came down 45 minutes later. They're out. Those bath toys were a hit. Good. She sat next to me on the couch, close enough that our legs touched. Want to watch something? Actually, I need to ask you something. She turned to face me, curious. Okay. I opened the folder and handed her the first photograph. Her and the man, leaving the hotel lobby. The color drained from her face. Tyler, I need you to not talk right now, I said. My voice was steady, calm. I need you to just listen. She stared at the photograph, her hands starting to shake. I handed her the next one, the kiss at her car. I know about the Riverside Inn. I know about room 247. I know about every Tuesday for the last 6 months. I pulled out the printed hotel reservations, the email confirmations. I know you use your maiden name. I know you told me you were having lunch with Meredith. Tyler, please. I said, don't talk. She closed her mouth. Tears were forming in her eyes, but I couldn't find it in myself to care. I know you changed clothes. I know you did your hair and makeup for him. I know you went to Target afterward to buy an alibi. I pulled out the last photograph, the timestamp showing 2:13 p.m. at the hotel entrance. I know exactly what you've been doing. The tears spilled over. She was crying now, silent and shaking. What I don't know, I said, is who he is, and I don't know who sent me these. I showed her my phone, the text from the unknown number. But apparently I should check your phone tonight. Want to tell me what I'm going to find? The printed evidence sat between us on the dining room table, like a bomb that had already detonated. Jessica's tears had stopped. Her face was blotchy, mascara tracked down her cheeks, but her eyes had gone empty. Resigned. How long have you known? Her voice came out flat. Does it matter? She looked at the screenshots, the hotel reservation confirmations, the timeline David had helped me compile. 6 months of Tuesdays laid out in black and white. I suppose not. I waited. Some part of me still wanted an explanation that would make sense of this, even though I knew no such explanation existed. Are you going to tell me who he is? Jessica's hands twisted in her lap. Does that matter either? Yes. She was quiet for a long moment. Upstairs, I could hear the girls playing in Emma's room. The sound of their laughter felt obscene against what was happening down here. His name is Ryan, she finally said. Ryan Caldwell. He works at the firm. The firm. Jessica worked as a paralegal at Hartley & Associates downtown. I'd been to exactly 2 office parties there in 8 years. Tried to picture the faces I'd seen. Wondered if I'd shaken this man's hand while he was sleeping with my wife. How did it start? Tyler, what's the point of... How did it start? She flinched at my tone. Good. Last October, the firm had a case that went to trial in Columbus. A group of us drove up for the week. We stayed at the same hotel. Had drinks after the first day. She paused. Nothing happened that week. But after we got back, you decided to start meeting him at the Riverside Inn every Tuesday. Not every Tuesday. Sometimes I have 6 months of hotel reservations, Jessica. Every single Tuesday you told me you were having lunch with Amanda. Her face crumpled again. Amanda doesn't even know. I swear. I used her name because you'd met her at that wedding and I knew you wouldn't question it. The casual calculation of it hit me harder than it should have. She'd constructed this lie carefully, using real details from our life together as building blocks for her deception. My phone buzzed on the table. Another text from the unknown number. Check her photos. Folder named Work Documents. I picked up my phone, looked at Jessica. What's in the folder on your phone labeled Work Documents? The color drained from her face. How do you... I stood up, held out my hand. Give me your phone. Tyler, please. Give me your phone. She pulled it from her pocket with shaking hands. I entered the password the anonymous sender had given me. 8273. It unlocked immediately. Jessica watched me navigate to her photos with the expression of someone watching their execution. The folder was there. Work documents. I opened it. The first photo was a selfie of Jessica and Ryan Caldwell. She was wearing the blue dress. They were in a hotel room, her head on his shoulder, both smiling. The intimacy in the image made my stomach turn. I scrolled. More photos. Jessica in lingerie I'd never seen. Ryan shirtless. The two of them in bed together, carefully framed to show their faces but nothing explicit. Vacation photos. A beach somewhere, a restaurant with an ocean view, a sunset. When had she gone on vacation with him? The conference in Miami, Jessica whispered. In February. I told you it was just work. I remembered. 4 days she'd been gone. I'd taken time off to watch the girls, manage their schedules alone, texted her every night to say we missed her. She'd sent me photos of the conference center, complained about boring seminars. All lies. I kept scrolling. There were dozens of photos. Hundreds, maybe. An entire relationship documented and hidden in plain sight on the phone that sat on our kitchen counter every night. My hands weren't shaking anymore. I felt cold, detached, like I was watching this happen to someone else. Does he know you're married? Yes. Does he know about Emma and Sophie? Yes. Does he have a wife? Jessica hesitated. He's engaged. I laughed. Couldn't help it. A harsh, bitter sound that made Jessica flinch. Jesus Christ, does she know? No. I set the phone down on the table, next to all the other evidence. What was the plan here, Jessica? Were you ever going to tell me? Or were you just going to keep this going until what? Until the girls graduated high school? Until we were old? I don't know. I wasn't thinking about... You weren't thinking. Right. You just accidentally fell into a 6-month affair. Accidentally booked the same hotel room every week. Accidentally went on vacation with him. Accidentally took all these photos. Tyler, please. Who's been sending me these messages? I picked up my phone, showed her the texts. Who else knows about this? Jessica stared at the screen, her face going pale. I don't know. Nobody knows. Just Ryan and me. Somebody knows. Somebody knows your phone password. Somebody's been following you, photographing you. Who is it? I swear to God I don't know. I believed her. The fear in her eyes was real. Whoever was feeding me information, they'd been careful to stay hidden from both of us. My phone buzzed again. Ryan Caldwell. 2847 Peachtree Road, NE, apartment 12C. His fiance's name is Lauren Mitchell. She works from home. She's there now. I stared at the message. The anonymous sender was giving me Ryan's address, giving me his fiance's name. The implication was clear. Jessica had seen the text over my shoulder. Tyler, no. Please don't. Don't what? Don't tell her? Why not? You think she doesn't deserve to know her fiancé is cheating on her? It's not your business to... Not my business? I stood up so fast my chair scraped against the floor. My wife has been sleeping with her fiancé for 6 months and it's not my business? That's not what I meant. What did you mean, Jessica? Explain it to me. Because from where I'm standing, Lauren Mitchell deserves to know exactly what kind of man she's about to marry. Jessica was crying again. Please, Tyler, please. If you tell her, Ryan will lose everything. His job, his... Good. The word came out cold and hard. Jessica stared at me like she didn't recognize me. Maybe she didn't. Maybe I didn't recognize myself. I'm going upstairs, I said. I'm going to say goodnight to our daughters, then I'm leaving. I don't know when I'm coming back. Where are you going? I picked up my phone, looked at Ryan Caldwell's address. To have a conversation. Tyler, don't. Please, let's just... Let's talk about this. We can figure this out. We can go to counseling. There's nothing to figure out. I headed for the stairs, then stopped. Turned back. David's going to come by in about an hour. He's going to stay here tonight, in the guest room. I don't want you alone with the girls right now. You don't trust me with my own children? I don't trust you at all. I went upstairs before she could respond. Emma and Sophie were building something with blocks in Emma's room, completely absorbed in their game. They looked up when I appeared in the doorway. "Daddy!" Sophie ran over, wrapped her arms around my legs. I picked her up, held her tight. Emma came over too, and I pulled her in with my other arm. Stood there in the doorway holding both my daughters, breathing in the smell of their strawberry shampoo, feeling their small bodies pressed against mine. Everything I was about to do, I was doing for them. To show them that actions had consequences. That betrayal couldn't be swept under the rug. That their father wouldn't just accept being disrespected in his own home. "I love you both so much," I said. "You know that, right?" "We love you too, Daddy," Emma said. "I have to go out for a little while. Uncle David's going to come over and stay with you tonight." "Is Mommy going too?" Sophie asked. "No, baby. Mommy's staying here." I set them down, kissed the tops of their heads, and walked out before they could ask any more questions. Jessica was still at the dining room table when I came back down. She'd gathered all the printed evidence into a pile, as if hiding it would somehow undo what she'd done. "Tyler." I walked past her without a word, grabbed my keys from the hook by the door, and left. The drive to 2847 Peachtree Road took 23 minutes. I spent the entire time thinking about what I was going to say to Lauren Mitchell. The drive to Flagstaff took 3 hours. 3 hours of Interstate 17 cutting through the high desert, the landscape shifting from Phoenix sprawl to Ponderosa pines, my hands gripping the steering wheel like it might anchor me to something solid. I'd met Vanessa 6 years ago at a community college photography class. She'd been the one who suggested we join the Lowell Observatory Stargazing Club 2 years later. Something we could do together that didn't involve Netflix and takeout. Something that made us interesting. Every third Friday. That's when the club met. Amateur astronomers, retirees, college students, people who just liked looking up instead of at their phones. Vanessa always came home energized those nights, talking about red giants and binary stars, her face flushed with enthusiasm I rarely saw anymore. I thought it was the stars. The notification had come through at 2:17 p.m. 3 days ago. An email from someone named Jay Reeves with the subject line, "Thought you should see this." No message. Just an attachment. The video file was labeled DomeCam 0927242247 MP4. Dome camera footage from September 27th, time-stamped 10:47 p.m. I'd opened it in my truck during lunch break, parked behind the warehouse where I worked logistics. The footage showed the interior of the Clark Telescope Dome, the massive instrument angled toward the open ceiling. The club always got 30 minutes with the big scope on meeting nights. In the video, the main lights were off, just the red emergency lighting that preserved night vision. 2 figures stood near the telescope's eyepiece. Even in the dim red glow, I recognized Vanessa's profile, the way she tucked her hair behind her left ear. The man with her was tall, maybe 40, wearing the staff polo shirt I'd seen on observatory employees. They weren't looking at stars. I watched him lean in, watched her tilt her face up, watched the kiss that lasted 15 seconds. I counted, before they separated, and she pressed her forehead against his chest. His hand came up to cradle the back of her head. The angle shifted slightly. Through the telescope's eyepiece, visible in the frame, I could see the reflection in the glass. Their faces impossibly close, the optics capturing what they thought was private. Constellations mapped on fogged lenses. I'd watched it 6 times before my hands stopped shaking enough to drive home. The parking lot at Lowell Observatory was half empty when I arrived at 6:43 p.m. Friday night, but not a club meeting night. I'd called ahead, asked about telescope availability for public viewing. The woman on the phone said Dr. Ethan Lawson would be conducting the evening session. Dr. Ethan Lawson. I'd Googled him during the drive. PhD in astrophysics from Berkeley, specialized in exoplanet detection, staff astronomer at Lowell for 8 years. Divorced, no kids. 42 years old. The visitor center was warm after the cold October evening. A young woman at the desk smiled. Here for the viewing session? Yes. Is Dr. Lawson available? I had some questions about the equipment. He's prepping the dome now. You can head up. Just follow the path to the Clark Dome. The path wound uphill through the pines. The white dome stood against the darkening sky, a monument to looking beyond what's in front of you. The irony wasn't lost on me. I found him inside, making adjustments to the telescope's positioning system. He looked up when I entered, professional smile in place. Evening. You're early. Session doesn't start until 7:30. I wanted to talk first. I kept my voice level. About the Stargazing Club. My wife is a member. Something flickered across his face. Caution, maybe. We have several club members, which... Vanessa Brennan, though I'm guessing you know her pretty well. The professional smile faded. He straightened, putting the telescope between us. I think you should leave. I saw the footage. September 27th. This dome. You and my wife. His jaw tightened. I don't know what you think you saw. Dome camera caught it, time-stamped. Both of you right where we're standing. I took a step closer. How long? He didn't answer immediately. The silence stretched, filled only by the distant hum of the dome's rotation mechanism. 6 months, he finally said. Since April. The confirmation hit harder than I expected, even though I'd known. Club meetings. Not just meetings. She'd come other nights. Tell you she was doing inventory at the pharmacy, working late. He met my eyes. She said you barely noticed when she left. So this is my fault? No, it's mine, and hers. He exhaled. Look, I didn't plan this. We were both. It just happened. Things don't just happen. You make choices. You're right. He leaned against the telescope mount. What do you want? An apology? You want me to quit? I pulled out my phone, opened the photos I'd prepared. I want you to understand what happens next. The first image showed Vanessa at home 3 nights ago, after I'd confronted her. I'd printed out stills from the dome footage, laid them on our kitchen table. The second image showed those same printouts with my handwriting across them. Dates, times, her lies written in red marker. I mapped every constellation of bull she fed me, I said. Every late night at work. Every club meeting that ran long. Every time she came home smelling like pine trees and cold air instead of antiseptic and pharmacy inventory. I swiped to the next photo. This is her brother's house where she's staying now. And this, I showed him the final image. This is the email I'm sending to the observatory director. The dome footage, a formal complaint about staff misconduct with club members, and a request for investigation into equipment misuse. His face went pale. You can't. That footage is internal. How did you even get it? Someone sent it to me. Someone who thought I should know. I pocketed my phone. Doesn't matter how. Matters what I do with it. I could lose my position. My wife could lose her marriage. Seems fair. He pushed off the telescope mount, hands raised. Look, we can talk about this. What do you want? Money? I'll end it with Vanessa completely. You don't need to destroy my career. I'm not destroying anything. You already did that. I walked to the telescope, ran my hand along the cold metal. You know what's funny? She used to come home and tell me what you saw through this thing. Jupiter's moons. The Andromeda Galaxy. She'd get so excited describing it. I found the primary alignment mechanism, the precision gears that kept the massive instrument pointed exactly where it needed to be. She was describing you the whole time. I just didn't know the language. Don't touch that, his voice sharpened. That's a historical instrument. Any damage, any damage would be unfortunate. I pulled the adjustable wrench from my jacket pocket. Like finding out your wife's been using stargazing as cover for the last 6 months. Stop! He moved toward me. I fitted the wrench to the alignment bolt. You teach people to look at distant things. Helps them ignore what's right in front of them. If you damage that telescope, they'll press charges. Destruction of property may be worse. That equipment is worth what? My marriage was worth something too. I applied pressure. The bolt resisted, then shifted. Something in the mechanism clicked. Ethan lunged forward, but I'd already moved to the secondary mount, wrench repositioning. Another bolt, another click. The telescope's angle shifted slightly. The careful calibration disrupted. You're insane, he said. They'll know it was you. Probably. I pocketed the wrench. But I'll be long gone, and you'll be here explaining why the dome camera shows you and a married club member in here after hours. I walked toward the exit. He didn't try to stop me. Her car's in the parking lot, I said at the door. The silver Subaru. Might want to check on it before you call security. His face changed. What did you... But I was already outside, heading down the path. Behind me, I heard him running. The parking lot of the Lowell Observatory stretched empty under the afternoon sun, and I sat in my truck with the wrench still in my hand. The metal felt cold, despite the Arizona heat bleeding through the windshield. I'd done it. Actually done it. The telescope, the same one Vanessa had used to stare at the stars while Ethan Lawson whispered constellations in her ear, would never align properly again. Not without a complete recalibration that would take weeks and cost thousands. I'd loosened the azimuth bearings just enough to throw everything off by degrees. Subtle. The kind of damage that wouldn't show until someone tried to track celestial objects and found nothing where it should be. My phone buzzed. Vanessa. Where are you? We need to talk. I deleted the message without responding. The rocks sat in a canvas bag on the passenger seat. I'd collected them from the meteor crater yesterday. 23 chunks of impact-scarred stone, each one the size of a baseball or larger. The gift shop sold polished specimens for tourists, but these came from the restricted areas where the ground still held fragments of the original impact. I had a friend who worked maintenance there. He didn't ask questions when I requested access. Ethan Lawson's car would be easy to find. The observatory only had 2 parking areas, and the staff lot sat behind the main building, away from public view. His silver Subaru Outback, I'd memorized the license plate from the dome footage, would be there until his shift ended at 6. I checked my watch. 3:47 p.m., 2 hours and 13 minutes. The drive to Meteor Crater had taken 40 minutes. I'd spent the morning there, walking the rim, looking down into that massive wound in the earth. 50,000 years ago, a meteorite had punched through the atmosphere at 26,000 miles per hour and carved out a hole 3/4 of a mile wide. The impact had vaporized the meteorite itself, but the crater remained, a permanent scar. Some things left marks that never healed. I started the truck and drove back toward the observatory, but I didn't go to the staff parking lot. Not yet. Instead, I pulled into the visitor center lot and walked inside like any other tourist. The gift shop clerk, a college-aged woman with her hair in a braid, smiled at me. Welcome to Lowell Observatory. Are you here for the afternoon tour? Just looking around, I said. The displays showed the history of the facility. Percival Lowell had founded it in 1894 to study Mars. Clyde Tombaugh had discovered Pluto here in 1930. The Clark telescope, the same one I'd just sabotaged, had been operating for over a century. A national historic landmark. An irreplaceable piece of astronomical history. I felt nothing. The clerk's radio crackled. Amy, can you come to the dome? We're having some kind of calibration issue. She frowned. Press the button. What kind of issue? The tracking is way off, like several degrees off. I don't understand it. I walked out before she could respond. The staff parking lot sat on the north side of the complex, accessible through a service road that wound behind the main buildings. I drove there slowly, keeping my speed casual. 3 cars occupied the lot. The silver Subaru sat in the far corner, backed into its space. I parked 2 spots away. The bag of rocks felt heavier than it should as I lifted it from the passenger seat. My hands were steady. That surprised me. I'd expected shaking, some physical manifestation of what I was about to do. But my fingers gripped the canvas without tremor. The first rock weighed about 2 pounds. Rough edges, dark surface pitted with age. I held it for a moment, feeling its weight, then threw it overhand at the Subaru's windshield. The glass spider-webbed on impact. The sound echoed across the parking lot, a sharp crack that seemed too loud in the afternoon quiet. I waited, listening for voices, footsteps, anything. Nothing came. The second rock hit the hood, leaving a dent the size of my fist. The third shattered the driver's side window. I worked methodically, throwing rock after rock. The windshield collapsed inward. The rear window exploded. The hood crumpled under repeated impacts. The roof dented. The side panels buckled. Each throw felt deliberate, controlled. I wasn't angry anymore. This was simply something that needed to happen. When the bag was empty, I stood back and looked at what I'd done. The Subaru looked like it had been caught in an actual meteor shower. Glass glittered across the asphalt. The body was cratered, dimpled with impact points. The windshield hung in fragments. One headlight was completely gone, the other cracked and dangling. My phone buzzed again. Vanessa. Please, I know you're upset, but we can work through this. Just come home. I took a photo of the destroyed car and sent it to her without comment. Then I drove to the law offices of Patricia Kemp, the divorce attorney I'd contacted 3 days ago. Patricia's office occupied the second floor of a brick building on LaRue Street in downtown Flagstaff. The waiting room had leather chairs and abstract art that probably cost more than my truck. The receptionist, an older woman with reading glasses on a chain, looked up when I entered. Mr. Foster, Ms. Kemp is ready for you. Patricia Kemp was 50-something, with silver hair cut short and eyes that missed nothing. She stood when I entered, shook my hand with a firm grip, and gestured to the chair across from her desk. You sounded urgent on the phone, she said. What can I do for you? I'd brought everything. The USB drive with the dome footage, printouts of the timestamps showing when Vanessa had been at the observatory, screenshots of her text messages with Ethan. I'd checked her phone while she slept 2 nights ago, found everything. Photos of them together that she'd been stupid enough to keep in a hidden folder. Patricia reviewed it all in silence. She took notes on a legal pad, occasionally asking questions about dates, times, locations. Her expression never changed. This is comprehensive, she said finally. How long have you known? 5 days. And in those 5 days, have you done anything that might complicate the divorce proceedings? I thought about the telescope, the Subaru, the rocks. Define complicate. She set down her pen and looked at me directly. Mr. Foster, I need to know if you've done anything illegal. Anything that could be used against you in court or that might affect the settlement. I haven't touched her, I said. I haven't threatened her. I haven't done anything to our house or her belongings. All technically true. Patricia nodded slowly. Arizona is a no-fault divorce state, which means we don't need to prove adultery to dissolve the marriage. However, this evidence could be relevant to property division and any spousal support claims. You've been married how long? 6 years. Any children? No. Shared property? The house, 2 cars, savings account with about 40,000. Her retirement account from the university. She's an adjunct professor. My 401k from the engineering firm. Patricia made more notes. Arizona is a community property state. Generally, everything acquired during the marriage gets split 50-50. However, if we can demonstrate that she's been using marital assets to facilitate the affair, hotel rooms, gifts, meals, we might be able to argue for a larger share of the liquid assets. She used our joint credit card, I said, for dinners at Criollo, twice at Copa Cafe. She told me she was meeting other faculty members. Do you have the statements? I pulled them from my folder. I'd highlighted every suspicious charge in yellow. Patricia reviewed them, her expression still neutral. This helps. What about the house? We bought it 4 years ago. Both our names on the mortgage. Do you want to keep it? I thought about the home office where I'd watched the dome footage, the bedroom where Vanessa had lain beside me every night while carrying on with Ethan, the kitchen where she'd smiled and asked about my day while planning her next rendezvous. No, I said. Sell it. Split it. I don't care. What do you want, Mr. Foster? The question hung in the air between us. What did I want? I wanted the last 6 months back. I wanted to unknow what I knew. I wanted to rewind to before I'd seen that footage, before I'd watched my wife gaze at another man like he'd hung the stars she pretended to study. But that wasn't an option. I want out, I said. Clean. Fast. I don't want to fight over furniture or photo albums or who gets the coffee maker. I just want to be done. Patricia nodded. I can file tomorrow. Given the evidence and the lack of children, we should be able to expedite this. Arizona requires a 60-day waiting period from service of papers to finalization, but we can have everything else settled before then. Do it. She pulled out a retainer agreement. My fee is $300 an hour, with a $5,000 retainer to start. If the case remains uncontested and straightforward, you'll likely get some of that back. I wrote the check without hesitation. As I was leaving, Patricia said, Mr. Foster, one more thing. Whatever you did in those 5 days before coming to see me, don't do anything else. No contact with the other party. No confrontations. No property damage. Nothing that could be used against you. Understood? Understood, I said. I was already planning my next move. The Flagstaff Police Department cruiser pulled up behind me as I sat in my truck across the street from the observatory parking lot. I'd been there maybe 10 minutes, watching the security lights illuminate the dome against the night sky. Long enough for someone to notice and call it in. I kept my hands visible on the steering wheel. The officer approached my window with a flashlight. Young guy, probably early 30s. His nameplate read, Williams. Evening, sir. Can I ask what you're doing here? Just looking at the observatory, I said. Honest answer. I used to bring my daughters here for the public nights. Used to. Past tense. Everything about my old life was past tense now. Williams studied my face with the kind of attention that meant he was running through mental databases. You're Tyler Foster. Not a question. Yes. The facility director filed a report this afternoon. Criminal mischief, destruction of property. Your membership card was found near the damaged equipment. Of course it was. I dropped it deliberately on my way out, right next to the telescope's misaligned mount. Let them know exactly who'd done it. I'd like you to step out of the vehicle, Mr. Foster. I complied slowly. The night air was cold, that high desert cold that cuts through everything. Williams had me put my hands on the truck while he patted me down. Professional, not aggressive. He found my phone, wallet, keys, nothing else. I'm going to need you to come to the station with me, he said. The observatory wants to press charges. I understand. The ride to the station took 15 minutes. Williams didn't try to make conversation, which I appreciated. The Flagstaff PD building was newer than I expected, all southwestern architecture and energy-efficient lighting. They processed me in a small room with beige walls and fluorescent lights that hummed. Fingerprints, photographs, paperwork. The detective who interviewed me was a woman in her 40s named Patricia Bowen. She had tired eyes and a wedding ring that she twisted absently while she talked. Mr. Foster, the Lowell Observatory is estimating $28,000 in damage to their Clark telescope. That's a felony charge. Do you understand that? I do. Do you want to tell me why you did it? I looked at her wedding ring. Wondered if she'd ever had to sit in a parking lot watching evidence of her spouse's betrayal accumulate on a phone screen. My wife was having an affair with one of the astronomers there. Ethan Lawson. I found out 2 days ago. Bowen's expression didn't change. I'm sorry to hear that. But you understand that doesn't justify... I'm not trying to justify it. You asked why. That's why. She made notes on her pad. There's also a report from Mr. Lawson about damage to his vehicle, a 2021 Honda Accord. He claims you threw rocks at it, causing approximately $4,000 in damage. Meteor fragments, I corrected. From the crater. Seemed appropriate. Mr. Foster, I need you to understand the seriousness of this situation. You're looking at criminal mischief in the first degree, possibly criminal damage. Arizona law. I know what I'm looking at, detective. I'm an engineer. I can do math. Bowen leaned back in her chair. Have you contacted an attorney? Not yet. I'd suggest you do that, soon. She stood up. We're going to hold you overnight. Arraignment will be tomorrow morning. You'll have a chance to enter a plea and the judge will set bail. They put me in a holding cell by myself. Concrete walls, metal bench, toilet in the corner. I sat on the bench and stared at the opposite wall. Somewhere in this building, they had my phone in an evidence bag. On that phone were all the screenshots from the anonymous sender. All the evidence of Vanessa's affair. None of it mattered now. I'd crossed a line. The methodical, controlled approach I'd maintained since that first anonymous message, tracking her location, documenting everything, consulting with David, confronting her with printed evidence. All of it had dissolved the moment I saw that telescope footage. Vanessa gazing up at Ethan Lawson like he was mapping the universe just for her. The intimacy in that look. The way she'd never looked at me, not even in our best moments. The rational part of my brain knew I'd made a mistake. Property destruction wouldn't undo the affair. It wouldn't save my marriage. It would complicate the divorce, probably cost me money I didn't have, possibly result in a criminal record. But sitting in that cell, I couldn't make myself regret it. The sound of the telescope mount grinding as I forced it off alignment with the wrench. The satisfying crack of meteor rock against Ethan Lawson's windshield. The way the observatory dome looked in my rearview mirror as I drove away, knowing they'd find the damage in the morning. It had felt like taking something back. Not my marriage, that was gone. But some piece of myself that Vanessa and Ethan had tried to take from me. Around 3 in the morning, a guard brought me a sandwich and a bottle of water. I ate mechanically. The sandwich tasted like cardboard, but I hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. My body needed fuel, even if my brain didn't care. At 7, they moved me to a different cell to wait for transport to the courthouse. 2 other men were already there, both looking like they'd had worse nights than me. One was sleeping. The other stared at the wall with the glazed expression of someone coming down from something chemical. The arraignment was perfunctory. I stood before Judge Melissa Garrett in an orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed in front of me. The prosecutor read the charges. Criminal damage, Class 4 felony. Criminal mischief, Class 1 misdemeanor. Estimated total damages, $32,000. How do you plead? Judge Garrett asked. I thought about lying, about claiming innocence, making them prove it, dragging this out. Guilty, Your Honor. The prosecutor looked surprised. My court-appointed attorney, a young man named Brian Walsh, who'd spoken to me for maybe 5 minutes before the hearing, looked even more surprised. Judge Garrett studied me over her reading glasses. "Mr. Foster, you understand that by pleading guilty, you're waiving your right to a trial." "Yes, Your Honor." "And you're doing this of your own free will without coercion?" "Yes," she made a note. "Bail is set at $15,000. Sentencing will be scheduled for 3 weeks from today. Mr. Foster, I'm ordering you to have no contact with Ethan Lawson or the Lowell Observatory during this time. Do you understand?" "Yes, Your Honor." Walsh arranged for a bail bondsman. I signed more paperwork, paid $1,500 I couldn't afford, and walked out of the courthouse into bright Arizona sunlight at 11:30 in the morning. My truck was still parked across from the observatory, but I couldn't go get it without violating the no-contact order. I called David. He answered on the second ring. "Tyler, where are you?" "Flagstaff Courthouse. I need a ride." Silence. Then, "What happened?" "I'll explain when you get here." He arrived 2 hours later, having driven straight from Phoenix where he'd been staying at a hotel near his office. His face was tight with concern as I climbed into his rental car. "Your truck's impounded?" "No, just parked somewhere I can't go." "Observatory parking lot." David pulled out of the courthouse lot. "Start talking." I told him everything. The telescope footage from the anonymous sender. The way I'd driven to the observatory after midnight. The wrench from my toolbox. The meteor rocks from the box of souvenirs I'd bought at the crater years ago for the girls. The satisfying destruction of Ethan Lawson's windshield, his headlights, his side mirrors. David listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. "That was stupid," he finally said. "I know. Really stupid. Vanessa's divorce attorney is going to crucify you with this." "I know. You could end up with a criminal record, restitution payments, probation." "I know, David. I know all of it." He glanced at me. "Was it worth it?" I thought about Vanessa's face when I'd confronted her with the evidence. The way she'd cried, claimed it meant nothing, begged for another chance. The way she'd looked at Ethan Lawson in that telescope footage. "Yes," I said. "It was worth it." The sentencing hearing took place on a Thursday morning in November. Judge Garrett reviewed the pre-sentencing report while I stood beside Brian Walsh, who'd somehow managed to negotiate a plea agreement despite my guilty plea making his job nearly impossible. "Mr. Foster, I've reviewed the circumstances of this case," she said. "The court recognizes that you were experiencing significant emotional distress. However, that doesn't excuse the destruction of historic scientific equipment and private property." I kept my face neutral. "I'm sentencing you to 3 years supervised probation, 200 hours of community service, and full restitution to both Lowell Observatory and Mr. Lawson. Total amount, $32,400. You'll also be required to attend anger management counseling." $32,000. The number didn't shock me anymore. I'd already sold my truck, emptied my savings, borrowed from David. The divorce settlement had come through 2 weeks earlier. Vanessa got the house, I got the debt, and a fresh start. Fair trade, in my estimation. The divorce was finalized 63 days after Patricia filed the papers. Vanessa didn't contest anything. Her attorney had tried to use my criminal charges as leverage, but Patricia shut that down fast. The property destruction had nothing to do with marital assets, and Arizona's no-fault laws meant my actions didn't affect the settlement. I signed the papers in Patricia's office on a gray afternoon in December. Vanessa signed hers remotely. We didn't speak. The house sold in January. After the mortgage and Vanessa's share, I walked away with $18,000. It went straight to restitution payments. Ethan Lawson resigned from the observatory in February. The official story was that he'd accepted a position elsewhere, but David's wife, who had connections in Flagstaff academic circles, told me the real story. The observatory board had discovered he'd been involved with multiple club members over the years. The dome footage I'd inadvertently exposed had opened an investigation that found a pattern of misconduct. Lauren Mitchell, his fiancée, called off their engagement. She sent me a brief email in March. "Thank you for telling me the truth. Even if your methods were questionable, I deserve to know." I never responded. What would I say? My daughters adjusted better than I expected. The custody arrangement gave Vanessa primary placement since I was living in a studio apartment and working 60-hour weeks to pay off the restitution. But I had them every other weekend, and we made those weekends count. We went to the Science Center, the zoo, hiking in the Superstition Mountains, places where we could look at real things, tangible things, not distant lights that only looked beautiful from far away. Emma asked about the divorce once, sitting on my apartment floor building a tower out of blocks. "Why don't you and Mommy live together anymore?" I thought about lying, about giving her some sanitized version that would protect Vanessa's image. But I'd spent too long living with lies. "Because Mommy made some choices that hurt our family," I said carefully. "And I made some choices that weren't very smart. Sometimes people can't fix what gets broken." She considered this, then added another block to her tower. "Like when Sophie broke my dollhouse." "Something like that." "You fixed that, though." "Some things are easier to fix than others, sweetheart." Sophie, who'd been coloring at the table, looked up. I said I was sorry. "I know you did, baby." Emma's tower fell over. She started rebuilding it without complaint, the resilience of children on full display. The community service assignment placed me at a youth center in Mesa, teaching basic engineering concepts to at-risk teenagers. 200 hours sounded like a lot until I started actually doing it. The kids were sharp, curious, hungry for someone to pay attention to them. One of them, a 16-year-old named Marcus, who'd been caught breaking into cars, asked me why I was there. "I destroyed some property that didn't belong to me," I said. No point in lying. "Why?" "Because I was angry, and I thought breaking things would make me feel better." Did it? I thought about the telescope, the satisfying resistance of the alignment bolts giving way, the sound of meteor rock against glass, the immediate, visceral satisfaction. "For about 5 minutes," I said. "Then I spent the next year paying for those 5 minutes." Marcus nodded slowly. "That's what my mom keeps telling me. Says being mad is expensive." "Your mom's right." He went back to his circuit board project. A few minutes later, without looking up. "Was it worth it, though?" The same question David had asked me. "No," I said. This time, I meant it. It wasn't worth it. I should have just walked away. The anger management counseling was run by a therapist named Dr. Raymond Kim. I'd requested someone else when I saw the name on the intake form, remembering the no names rule from some half-forgotten part of my life. But there was no rule anymore. Just reality. Dr. Kim was patient, methodical, and infuriatingly good at his job. "You felt powerless," he said during our 4th session. "The affair took away your agency. Destroying the telescope was about reclaiming that." I know what it was about. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, you traded one form of powerlessness for another. Now, instead of your wife controlling the narrative, the court system does. I didn't have an answer for that. Over the months, Dr. Kim helped me understand something I'd been avoiding. I'd been angry long before I saw that telescope footage. Angry about the distance that had grown between Vanessa and me. Angry about the routine our marriage had become. Angry that I'd stopped trying to fix things years before she started the affair. The affair was a symptom, not the disease. The telescope was just the most expensive tantrum I'd ever thrown. By the time my probation ended in November, 3 years to the day after sentencing, I'd paid off the restitution, completed the community service, and finished the counseling. My record would show a felony conviction, but Brian Walsh had managed to get it reduced to a Class 6, the lowest level. It could be set aside after completion of probation, I filed the paperwork the next day. The girls were 9 and 7 now. Emma had joined the robotics club at school. Sophie wanted to be a veterinarian. They split their time between Vanessa's house, she'd bought a smaller place in Tempe after selling ours, and my 2-bedroom apartment in Gilbert. Vanessa had started dating someone new, a professor from ASU. The girls mentioned him occasionally. I didn't ask questions. I'd gone on a few dates myself. Nothing serious. I wasn't sure I was ready for serious. Wasn't sure I'd ever be ready again. But I was learning to be okay with that uncertainty. On a clear Friday evening in December, 4 years after everything fell apart, I took the girls to the Desert Botanical Garden for their Luminaria night. Thousands of candles lit the pathways, turning the desert landscape into something magical. Sophie ran ahead, chasing the lights. Emma walked beside me, her hand in mine. "Dad?" she said. "Are you happy?" The question caught me off guard. "What makes you ask that?" "You seem different than you used to, quieter, but like, in a good way." I thought about it. Was I happy? I lived in a modest apartment, worked a job that paid the bills but didn't excite me, saw my daughters half as much as I wanted. I had a criminal record, debt I'd be paying off for years, and a failed marriage in my past. But I also had clarity. I understood myself better than I had at 32, when I'd thought destroying things would heal me. I'd learned that revenge was just another form of self-harm, that the only person you really punish with rage is yourself. "Yeah," I said, "I think I am happy. Or at least, I'm learning how to be." Emma squeezed my hand. "Good." We walked through the gardens, following Sophie's excited voice, surrounded by candlelight that turned ordinary cacti into silhouettes against the night sky. The lights were beautiful, but they were also temporary. By morning, they'd be gone, leaving only the desert as it always was. Some things were meant to be permanent. Some things were meant to burn out. The trick was knowing which was which before you struck the match. 5 years after the screenshot appeared on my phone, I understood this. Betrayal doesn't justify destruction. Pain doesn't excuse causing pain. And the satisfaction of revenge is always, always temporary. The telescope got repaired. Ethan Lawson found another job. Vanessa moved on. The only person who carried the weight of what I'd done was me. But I also learned something else. You can survive the worst thing that's ever happened to you. You can make terrible choices and still find your way back. You can break things, including yourself, and learn to live with the cracks. My daughters taught me that. Every time they rebuilt a tower that fell, every time they forgave each other for broken toys and harsh words, they showed me what I'd forgotten. That resilience isn't about never falling apart. It's about putting yourself back together, piece by piece, even when the original shape is lost forever. I'll never get those 5 minutes back. The satisfaction of the wrench turning, the rocks flying, the immediate rush of doing something instead of just enduring. But I also won't get back the year I spent paying for those 5 minutes, or the relationship with my daughters that suffered while I was consumed by anger. The scales don't balance. They never do. That's the real lesson. You can't fix betrayal with revenge. You can only choose what kind of person you'll be on the other side of it. I chose poorly, paid the price, and learned to live with the consequences. And in the end, that's all any of us can do. Make our choices, face what comes after, and hope we're wiser the next time we're tested. The stars are still up there, distant and indifferent. But I don't need a telescope to see what's right in front of me anymore. That's enough.